We live in a world that feels like it's broadcasting 24/7, and we're constantly told that sharing is caring, that being transparent is being authentic. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the opposite is actually true? Today, we're diving into the quiet power of privacy and why keeping some things just for yourself might actually be a superpower. Let's explore this kind of forgotten art of holding back and why it might just be the real key to moving forward.
Man, this quote from Justin Brown just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? Our public interiors. Think about it. We're always unburdening ourselves to a camera, posting screenshots of private conversations, sharing our biggest ambitions or our deepest fears. It's gotten so normal that we barely even notice it anymore. We've kind of bought into this idea that total, radical openness is the only way to connect.
And right there, that's the big question we're tackling today. What if this constant cultural push for transparency is actually undermining the very relationships and goals we're trying so hard to build? It's this really strange paradox of modern life, The more we seem to talk, the less we might actually be heard.
So how do we even get here? When did it happen that holding something back started to feel wrong, like some kind of moral failing? The pressure to perform our lives, especially online, has become absolutely immense, and frankly, a lot of us are just feeling burnt out by it all.
Yeah, somewhere along the way, privacy just started to look suspicious. To withhold something became a sin against this ideal of authenticity. We were taught, without anyone ever really saying it out loud, that silence equals shame. That if you're not sharing something, well, you must be hiding something bad. And this has pushed us into this weird cycle of curated openness, where we feel like we have to tell everyone everything, or at least perform like we are.
Okay, but here's where it gets really fascinating. Psychology actually has a ton to say about this. So let's shift gears from the cultural pressure and look at the actual science that explains why oversharing can backfire so badly. There are some really powerful principles at play here.
First up, there's this concept from the 1970s called social penetration theory. A couple of psychologists figured out that real, lasting intimacy, it's not built by just dumping all your information on someone at once. No way. Instead, real trust depends on regulating what you share and, just as importantly, when you share it.
And the theory uses this brilliant metaphor to explain it: the onion approach versus the egg approach. The onion is all about peeling back layers over time, building that trust gradually. The egg, well, that's just cracking yourself wide open all at once, and that can totally flood someone with too much information too soon. It creates this weird feeling of unearned intimacy, which, more often than not, just leads to discomfort, not connection.
And now for the second big idea, social reality. And this one is absolutely crucial for our ambitions. When you go and announce a big goal to the world, your brain gets this little hit of dopamine. It feels good. The problem is, it feels so good that your brain kind of registers a sense of completion before you've even started, and that can completely drain your motivation to do the actual hard work.
And this is not just a theory, we've got the data. A study at NYU in 2009 gave people a challenging task and 45 minutes to work on it. Just look at these results. The group that publicly announced their goals worked for only 33 minutes on average before stopping, and they said they felt satisfied. But the group that kept their goals private, they worked the entire 45 minutes and were actually motivated to keep going. So the takeaway is pretty clear. Talking about it can sometimes become a substitute for doing it.
Okay, so if oversharing can sabotage our relationships and our goals, what exactly should we be keeping to ourselves? Let's get practical here and build a little toolkit for what we can call strategic privacy.
So here are some of the key areas where practicing a little privacy isn't about being secretive, it's about protecting your energy, your relationships, and your focus. Now, we've already covered goals, but let's explore a few of these others that might just surprise you.
Let's talk about money. As this Reddit user put it so bluntly, envy is a thing, and it is. Sharing specific details about your income, your net worth, or some big financial win, it can just warp the dynamics you have with people. It invites comparison, resentment, and judgment. And it doesn't matter if you make more or less than they do, the conversation suddenly shifts away from connection and becomes about hierarchy.
This same idea applies directly to our relationships. We often think of trust as just being about fidelity, but a huge part of it is about containment. It's that unspoken agreement that the private moments, the inside jokes, the difficult fights, they all stay between the two of you. When you share those intimate details with others, you're breaking that container, and what feels to you like harmless venting can easily feel like a deep betrayal to them.
Now, let's be clear. This is not about building walls around yourself and suffocating in silence. The key difference between healthy privacy and unhealthy secrecy all comes down to your ability to draw effective boundaries. This is really where discernment comes into play. Think of boundaries on a spectrum. On one end, you have rigid boundaries, like a fortress that keep everyone out and can lead to real detachment. On the other end, you have loose boundaries, where you overshare everything, you can't say no, and you get all enmeshed in other people's lives. Healthy boundaries are flexible. They let you protect yourself when you need to, but they also let you connect authentically when it feels safe.
So how do we actually put this into practice? Well, it can start by just changing a few conversational habits. Try to listen more than you talk, and before you share, just take a beat and consider your audience. Is this the right person in the right place? If a conversation starts to feel too intrusive, you can always shift the focus back to them by asking a simple question. But honestly, the most crucial step is to choose your confidants wisely, because not everyone has earned the right to hear your story.
And this quote from Dr. Brené Brown is so important here. We hear all the time that vulnerability is a strength, and it is. But true strength comes from sharing your vulnerabilities with people who offer psychological safety, people who've shown you they can be trusted with your story. Disclosure without discernment isn't brave. A lot of the time, it's just reckless.
So let's totally reframe this whole idea. Privacy isn't about hiding in fear or shame. Not at all. It's an active, powerful choice. It's about finding a way to be grounded in a world that is just so full of noise.
I really love this metaphor. Think of your inner life like a house. You wouldn't just leave the doors and windows wide open for anyone to wander through, right? You build it carefully. You decide who gets an invitation. Privacy is that sacred architecture. It's the choice to cultivate your own thoughts, your goals, and your identity before you decide to present them to the world.
And here it is, maybe the most essential takeaway in our hyper-documented world. Not every single experience needs to be turned into a post, a story, or a public lesson. Some things are beautiful or messy or meaningful precisely because they are yours and yours alone. Some things aren't content. They're just life.
So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. In this age of radical openness, what goal, what memory, what part of your story is so important that you'll choose to protect it? What will you decide to keep, just for you?